Well, welcome to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. I'm Harry Schrader. Glad to be with you today. We're halfway done with the Missouri Valley Conference race, and I thought I better get somebody smart on the podcast to tell us what's going to happen the rest of the way. And so the smartest guy I could think of was Kevin Lehman, and there he is. By the miracle of video work, there is the lovely and talented Kevin Lehman. Hey, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. I'm sitting in the Hampton Inn across from the Murray State Arena, getting ready for tonight's game against Illinois State and Murray State. Big one. They're all big ones. Everybody's jockeying for position, Harry, as you know. And this is a huge game like any other.
I want to take you back, though, to Saturday. You know, I tweeted out, you can have everything else in the basketball world, 8,200 at the Holman Center with you and Clay Matvick calling the game. It doesn't get any better than that. How fun was that?
I tell you what, Harry, when we walked in the place, you could smell the popcorn. It just smelled like an old-time arena. And being to a place that Larry Bird played in and the statue of Bird outside, I got a picture. That statue is 12 foot high, but I still I said, Clay, I'm going to jump up and block his shot. Get a picture. and Harry, on top of that, it was my birthday. So and I told people, where would you rather be than the house that Bird built on your birthday? And so I sent that picture of me trying to block Bird's shot.
That's awesome.
To all my friends. But what a high-level game. It reminded me of that game. Remember, was it 2022, the championship game at McLeod Center between A.J. Green, Lucas Williams from Loyola. We had the top defender going against the top offensive player. That thing went to overtime. This was that same type of intensity, except we had a bunch of dudes that could score in this game.
Crazy game, and obviously they won it in overtime. And when you're there, the home fans, if like I've done, lots of games, it's more fun when the home team wins. If you know what I mean. But you and I, we don't root for teams, but we're rooting for the league. They came out of that with the W, and I think Bradley's really, really, really good. And so I think they're still going to have a lot to say about the rest of the race. But before we talk about any of those kinds of things, I want a little pop quiz. All right. Your most positive surprise in the Valley season halfway home?
Well, it's got to be Indiana State. Pick fourth. We all thought Josh Schertz had some magic going last year, had some close losses, especially in Arch Madness. But for what they've done this year, we knew Robbie Avila in the second year was going to be better than he was in his first. But the pieces around him, the fact that he was able to bring Swope in and Conwell, and it was seamless transition after losing some really good players, I think has to be the surprise of what's happened in this Valley League.
Jabo off the bench, bury the triple. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. I'm just having flashbacks.
I said, Jabo, where did you get that nickname? He says, my grandfather gave it to me. I said, well, I got to have the backstory, Jabo. And he goes, it's just too long to tell. So I never got deep into that whole story. But how about that? He sat for the entire second half. And it came in and knocked that shot down.
Yeah, I asked him about that before, too. He said, well, my grandfather used to call me that, and then his grandfather passed away, and he's just held on to it ever since, And what a great story and what a great series of plays he made there in that game. Biggest disappointment looking at the league at the halfway point? A team, maybe that isn't living up to whatever we thought,
I tell you what, Harry, Brad Wells and I, we do the Paradise Jam in the Virgin Islands every year. And the men's is the week before Thanksgiving. Missouri State looked great in that. Lee was playing really good at the point guard position. Benson was spectacular. And I thought they got 8 guys. They weren't moving Donovan Clay all over the court like they did the year before. And I even told Mike Kern at the Valley, I said, this team is really clicking and really good. And then, they had some injuries, had some bumped the toe a few times, but still a big win over St. Mary's at St. Mary's. That was huge. But to see them in the bottom half of the league is probably the surprise that I have right now.
Yeah, I agree. And they've been playing a little bit better, and I was bullish and still am on Matthew Lee. But they're bringing him off the bench, and Damian Mayo is back in the starting lineup, and they're starting to play better. Sometimes, who's fitting in what slot. It's not about who has the quickest dribble or the best shot. It's about maybe that on-floor chemistry.
And here's what's an amazing thing, and this is what's going to make Arch Madness so great, Harry. Let's say Missouri State's that 8 or 9 seed. and you're the number one seed waiting to see who wins 8-9 game, you could get Missouri State in that game. I'm like, that's might be the last one you want. But we're seeing that all the way through. There's, probably what, 9 teams that would scare you, maybe 10 teams that would scare you in Arch Madness. They have a chance if someone like Indiana State would get knocked off, opens the door for somebody else. I didn't know Matthew Lee's father was Butch Lee from Marquette. Yeah. So I had a long visit with him in the Virgin Islands, got some pictures taken with him because 1977 Marquette National Championship, that was my time and probably your time here too. Yeah. So that was really neat to kind of catch up and talk with Butch Lee.
And what a story, and you love to watch those things play out. All right, pop quiz again. First team all conference right now, and who's your Larry Bird Player of the Year?
Oh man, you're killing me because
I know.
I don't know how you're gonna do 5. You can't do 5 this year. It's incredible. So I mean, and I've asked, every coach says this about Indiana State: who's the key? Mm-hmm. And me being an old coach, the point guard, man.
Sure.
Julian Larry is the guy that makes them go, but they got so many good players with what Swope brings to them, Como brings to them, and of course, the hub of their offense, Robbie Avila. That's a tough one because they're going to split the vote between some of those guys, and then you get to Bradley, Hickman, Dean. They've been fantastic. That's really hard for me to sit down and give you 5 names right now. I don't know if it's possible.
I think it's impossible. Obviously you think about Tucker DeVries and you think about Xavier Johnson. Those are locks, right? But how does the Indiana State thing get divided up? And you mentioned Connor Hickman. He's the guy to me. They're 14-2 when he starts and finishes a game. 14-2. I mean, that's only the second game they lost all year with him in the total lineup.
I had that first game. He came back. Well, I played a little bit against Truman, and they went to Valpo. He hit his first 5 threes and goes 5 for 9 in that game, and comes back and goes, I think, 5 for. I think it might have been 5 for 7. Came back for 5 for 9 the next game. I mean, he was. And I gave a little shout out on that broadcast Saturday to the training staff and the strength staff to bring him back with confidence so quickly that they did. Because, and here's why I thought Bradley had a chance to win that game, because I had the first call when Bradley was making the run against Indiana State at Carver, and Hickman went down.
Right.
And that took the air out of Carver and took the air out of the team. But you could kind of tell they had confidence that they could deal with Indiana State. So, one of the greatest games in a number of years, that the Bradley at Indiana State.
Yeah, just a great game. And you mentioned that when they played at Carver, they were down. Bradley was down, fought their way all the way back close, and then Hickman goes down, and then it's over, and they lose. And what a great race we have right now. I'm thinking. I'm
gonna throw one back at you.
Okay.
Because I asked Mike Kernis, I got the answer. Because Xavier Johnson's playing so well. Most improved, obviously. Could he also be MVP? When's the last time the most improved player in the league and the MVP of the league? And I'm going to tell you, there's 2 of them because I confirmed it with Mike Kern. Can you?
I was about to tell you, there's no way. There's nobody. Wow, most improved and MVP.
One's an easy one once you think about it. I'll tell you, he does what we do now.
Not Dan Muller.
Nope.
No.
You're close.
Gosh, I don't know. Who is it?
Adam Emenecker.
Oh, of course.
Easy one. Yeah.
Yeah,
think about it, 2008. Because he sat in the bench for Dr. Tom for 3 years, and Keno took over, and he was the Larry Bird. The other one's Fred Van Fleet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
So
it would have been the first time. It would have been the first time he won the Player of the Year, because he won it 2 times, sophomore, senior year. But he got it, and that's interesting. Wow,
because I've been like my most improved team. Jason Kent, obviously. Xavier Johnson's on there too. I think Darnell Brody's got to be thought of, and also
Brody's going to be on there 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
absolutely. Those are 2 of the guys. I want to take you forward. Saturday, all of a sudden we have Drake at Indiana State. I mean, all of a sudden we go from this massive, unbelievably important game at the Holman Center. Oh wait, we have one next week. I mean, like It's just got to be so fun to be a fan of the trees right now.
Well, the great thing that ESPN has done is the wild card. So those games aren't selected until about 2 weeks out. So they are waiting to take what they consider their top matchups. So that's how these games have been picked. But first of all, Indiana State has to go to Belmont,
Right.
which may have a healthy Jacoby Gillespie playing. There's then I think I heard you talk about it on the coaches call-in show yesterday because, and I had Illinois State a week ago today, and he was shooting around, and they were hinting that he's going to be ready to go sooner than later. So this is a tough week for Indiana State. They had Bradley at home, they go to Belmont, and they got Drake coming in.
He was talking. Josh Schertz was talking about it. What a tough week it was last week. That game Saturday was their third game in 6 days.
Well, and they barely escaped at UIC. That was I think a 2-point game with 37 seconds left. So it's life in the Valley. I mean, there's going to be some strange things happen here down the backstretch.
I talked to some of the coaches about it Monday. This is such a great year in the Valley. I mean, the crowds are up, the teams are better. Even the teams at the very bottom are better than they were a year ago. You think about how much better Evansville is and how much better Evansville would be if Hummerkaus hadn't been injured. They have a great record with him in the lineup. If they get him back, all of a sudden they become dangerous again. And Valpo broke from the gate, won some games, and then, fell apart a little bit. Now those young kids are figuring it out, and they're a dangerous team. And Illinois State can be dangerous. UIC plays great defense. Those teams at the bottom aren't bad at all, and then the teams at the top are elite.
That's what's going to make Arch Madness so good. And I've got Illinois State tonight, and I'm talking with Ryan Peden. They're doing everything outstanding. Their defense is good. They rebound it. They just can't make threes. If they start making threes, that's also a dangerous team. And here's what's amazing, Harry. The talent in the league, and think about this, 5 players left to go to Big Ten schools.
Yep.
And they're all doing well. Ranked mass at Nebraska. I see Ben Cricky all the time at Iowa since I'm an Iowa City native and live back in that area. And of course, Damascus, Illinois. Lance Jones starting for a team that was ranked number 1 half this year. So we had that talent leave, but it was amazing how talented this league is this year. And we saw it in the net. I mean, bounced all the way up to number 9 as the league net.
Yeah, 24. I think Indiana State's 24 in the net right now. And you're right. I mean, the league lost an amazing amount of talent, and the league's a lot better. I mean, it's crazy. And so it's fun to watch every night. You go into a game and you think, man, these guys got 2 or 3, 4, whatever guys that are really, really decent. I mean, you think about Northern Iowa, who had a slow start, but they really have 7 or 8 guys that could start for anybody in the league. And, I was sad that Bowen Bourne couldn't play that game the other night against Drake. He was sick. How different might that game have been? They were up several points with about 5 minutes left, and then Drake just put on a clinic at the end and beat them. And the margin ended up being a lot bigger than the game really was. I think there are 5 or 6 teams that are really, really good. I don't know if you have the Drake Indiana State game Saturday or not, but
yes.
But I'm telling you, it is so fun when we get to those games. So they had 8,200. Murray had 6,700. Drake had 6,200. At their game the other night, and we're going to see those kind of crowds at Southern Illinois and at Bradley, and Bradley's.
Harry, don't forget Murray State, because they had a record for Southern Illinois in here on Saturday also.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy fun right now in the Missouri Valley Conference. When I think about you mentioned the most improved team, I think about the best newcomer. You got to, there's a number of guys. Obviously, Swope is probably the guy to take that. But Malik Dia ain't half bad. Ryan Conwell ain't half bad. I mean, there's some guys that could be knocking on that door.
Yeah, and tonight I've got Nick Ellington from Murray State, who's had some really huge games, and you can just go right down the list. Hudson's added a lot to that Northern Iowa team, so there's a bunch of them. And I don't know if Matthew Lee is eligible since he got hurt last year for that newcomer. He may not be, but
probably not.
You go right down there, Harry. I mean, the talent level, and let's hope that the Valley becomes a multiple bid league again, because they will make some noise when they get into March Madness, get the NCAA tournament. Because here's the thing. If you get Indiana State and they win that first game, how are you going to prep for those guys in 2-day turnaround?
Yeah, no doubt.
That could be a Sweet 16 team.
No doubt. And obviously we know that if Indiana State continues to play really, really well and their net stays where it's at, if somebody else can win the tournament, the Arch Madness tournament, and bang, you've got 2 teams in the tournament. If Drake can get hot and finish, I don't spent a long time with a high-level bracketologist last week, and he just said, well, of course, it was before Drake lost that game at Missouri State. He said if those 2 teams can stay hot, not get bad losses, and somebody else win Arch Madness, the Valley could be looking at 3 teams.
Oh, that's a great point. And if Drake would win Saturday at Indiana State, it'd be interesting to see what that does for their net, because they're in the mid 60s right now.
Yep.
Does that get them up in the 50s, low 50s? And like you said, they finish strong because they've got a game at Bradley yet too, I believe.
Well, before I talked to that guy, I had it all figured out. My phone's trying to ring on me. Let me get rid of that.
Well, as soon as you figure it out, it changes because, like you said, Drake goes to Missouri State and gets beat. And it's interesting because Northern Iowa kind of owns Missouri State and Springfield, and Drake has always struggled there. There are just certain matchups. And, think about this Saturday. You got Bradley has to go down the road to Illinois State. We've seen some strange things happen in that rivalry game also.
Yeah, the War on 74 is this week, and they've got a big game midweek and then turn right around and play the War on 74. It's I think this night after night, it's so much fun. The rookie of the year, the freshman of the year, I know Chuck Bailey at Evansville has been getting a lot of those weekly awards, and he's been terrific off the bench there for David Ragland. But Cooper Schwieger at Valparaiso, he's got to be the guy. One of those 2 guys, I'm assuming, will win that award. But there's some good young talent in the league as well.
Yeah, I've had Valpo. I've seen Schwieger, a really talented big man, can shoot threes, play inside and out. I haven't had Evansville in person yet. I've seen him on tape a number of times getting some prep work done. But you're right, and give credit to these coaches that have gone out there and done a great job of recruiting. And I think what you're seeing now is we're dealing with the NIL, which probably doesn't have that big of an effect at the level the Valley's at. But their ability to recruit players and find that talent and develop that talent is amazing. And one interesting other nugget I had was, Northern Iowa, whether 362 Division I teams, only 6 didn't have a player leave. Northern Iowa was one of the teams that kept all their players, and that speaks to the culture that Ben Jacobson has put together. And the winningest coach ever in the MVC, passing Hank Iba. How cool is that?
It's amazing. Just amazing. I texted him that night, because I was just so excited for him. And he knew it was going to happen this year. It wasn't like, it's not building up to this championship. He knew it would happen, but I'm sure it's actually a relief to him. It's just beyond him now. He doesn't have to worry, answer the questions.
Well, Harry, think of that would be us like being, named with some of the greatest announcers of all time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Henry Iva isn't small potatoes.
Yeah. Bob Knight called him Mr. Iba until the day that he died. I mean, that's he's won Olympic medal. It was unbelievable. So
yeah,
it's what an honor for Jake. He's been very, obviously being Jake, he's very humble about it. But that is an accomplishment that should not go unnoticed.
A couple other things I want to ask you about. So down the stretch, and I don't have the schedule out in front of me, who's going to play who and all of that. Obviously, there's head-to-head games between like Saturday Drake and Indiana State. Today, I believe the standings are Indiana State, Drake, Bradley, Southern, and Northern are all bunched right there. Those are the 5 top teams. And I'm telling you, being 1 through 4 coming to Arch Madness in St. Louis is vital, because you don't have to play on Thursday, but B, you're already in that quarterfinal round and playing a tired team.
Yeah, good point. And I think right now, I think Indiana State, Bradley, and Drake are going to be able to get those top 3 spots. The real battle that's going to make this interesting, who can get the 4th? UNI Southern. This is a big game tonight for Murray State because they got a chance for it. If Belmont gets healthy with Gillespie back, can they make a run and get that 4th spot? So a lot going on in the Valley. Of course, if you're one of those top 3, you don't want to stumble here down the stretch because Harry, we got a lot of games left. We still have 10 games left. Really this has been a dynamite league, only 10 games through, and we've got 10 to go. I think I really like the 20-game schedule. I don't know if the coaches enjoy it because it is so brutal, but it's great for us
and
for the fans.
Absolutely. I want to, I asked you if you had the game Saturday, and I don't know if you're doing it with Clay again, but for my money, the two of you are as good as anybody out there. You're such a great pair, and you love the league, and you know the league. Tell us a little bit about Clay that we don't know. What I mean is, we hear him, and he's a great broadcaster. And I had a meal with you two one time when we were both somewhere where games were going on. But tell people about Clay Matvick.
Well, first of all, we've become really close friends, and we kind of pieced together that when I was the coach at Omaha, he was covering some of my games for a local TV station. That we kind of put two and two together. But he lives north of Minneapolis on an acreage. His son is heavy in 4-H, so this week they're buying some beef cattle for his 4-H project. So that's a little bit about Clay. He's got two lovely daughters, a gorgeous wife, Lindsay, that he met was also in the broadcast business when they met. So he's down to earth, as loyal a person as you can be. And his was interesting. We kind of fell this thing about 3 years ago. He loves the Valley as much as you and I do. And that's and this is a guy that's doing big time football, hockey, he does SEC baseball. He gets a little bit of everything, but he just loves this league.
Yeah, I so enjoy his work, and you guys together in particular. You guys are just magic. And so, like, when I popped on that game, I couldn't watch the whole game. I forget exactly where I was, but I finally got it on. I'm like, oh, good, these guys are on. I'm telling you, it was as good as it gets. I mean, the game itself, but the way you guys brought it to us.
Those high level games, and you're behind the mic too. Those things carry themselves. So you just like don't screw it up, because that was some big time shots in the second half by both of those teams.
Yeah.
I mean, the defenses were good, but the shot making was tremendous.
Did you hear Darren Monday? Darren, we were asking about the first matchup. He said, when we played Indiana State, he said, we played really good defense in the first half, and they had like 43. And he said he looked at my other coaches. He said, that's all we got. Like we did good, yeah. And they got 40.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some shot makers in this league. Before I let you go, people are always asking me, how's Kevin's health? And people are in your corner. And I know do we ever know that we've beaten cancer? But you fought it and you came out on the other side. Just how is my friend?
I appreciate you asking, Harry. And and first of all, I always try to use my platform now to raise awareness for people to get number one, get early screening, get testing. That's a huge key to beating this disease. And then also we need funds for research. Coaches vs. Cancer was last week. We had a young man. I had the Illinois State game. They had a young man who was a third grader, had been through leukemia treatment, and it finally rang the bell. So my heart just went out, because I know what he went through, but I can't imagine doing that as a third grader, because that's one of the tough things. But as far as me, a clean bill of health. They moved me from cancer patient to cancer survivor.
Come on.
So I'm going for tests about every 3 months, but feeling good. Energy's back. The hair is back. I still, every once in a while, there's that chemo brain fog, which is a real thing. So every once in a while, like, oh boy, this kind of went blank on me. But I tell you, once the game tips off, I've never had a problem with that, because there's so much energy going on, and the crowds help bring you up too. But I really appreciate you asking. It was, when I look back, I'm like, how did I get through last year? Because I think I had 50-some basketball games going through that.
You did.
But it also kept me going. It's what kind of gave me something to look forward to and kept me going. So I appreciate everybody's thoughts and prayers and all the support from the colleagues in the Valley and the Valley staff, and all those people have really, really supported throughout that.
Well, we're glad that you're doing well. I mean, it's a big deal to all of us, and obviously biggest to you, but I mean, to us, that care about you, it's a big stinking deal. Appreciate your time today. And you're, probably doing 2-3 games a week right now.
Yeah, I've got Illinois State at Murray tonight, and then I'm finally going to get home. I spent my birthday in Terre Haute. I stayed down there for 3 days rather than figure by the time I got home, I have to try and come back. So then I'm right back in at the Holman Center for that Drake matchup on Saturday. So another big one.
I've got my picture taken in front of that statue too. Don't worry. I wasn't trying to block a shot, but
you got to. But I think it's more important to guys our age group, because we remember him playing. Did you see a little piece we did on during that, you may not tune in, but we had
Yeah.
when Larry Bird won that 3-point contest in the NBA and never took his warm up off. Because in the locker room, he looked at the round and he said, "Who's finishing second? Because I'm winning this thing." And we showed him winning that 3-point contest. The legend, those are true words from the legend.
Absolutely.
I saw a piece the other day where he was Pistol Pete in his career was with the Celtics, and Pistol's man would double team Bird. They went the timeout, and Pistol goes, "They're double teaming you. Get it back to me." He goes, "If you were any good, they wouldn't be double teaming me." And I'm like, "This is Pistol Pete you're talking about."
That's hilarious. Just great stuff. Kevin, appreciate it. I know we'll get to see you in St. Louis, if not sooner, and appreciate your time today. And we'll be paying attention to everything you do because you're going to be at all the big games. So we appreciate your time today.
Well, hopefully we can match up because I certainly enjoy calling a game with you, Harry.
I'll be doing a couple of radio games at the tournament, and maybe we'll end up in the same one. I hope that happens.
All right. Looking forward to it.
That's Kevin Lehman, the outstanding Missouri Valley Conference basketball announcer. You can catch him at all kinds of games throughout the rest of the season. That'll do it for this edition of the Valley Hoops Insider Podcast. Remember, since you've been there, make it a better place. We'll see you again real soon.